Hey guys, hope everything's going well. Thanks for coming on to my live stream today. Alrighty, let's get a few of the comments going in. Alrighty, which hobby YouTubers are you calling snake oil salesmen? Okay, we're gonna see that shortly. All right, he got nicknames for all of them. Looking forward to this. Okay, today I'm gonna bring on some of my buddies, and we're gonna talk about some of these snake oil guys in the sports card industry, and we're gonna relate it to what I see happening or what we saw in the gold and silver industry about a decade ago. I'm gonna add them right now. All right, it's John and it's Don. I think someone has some echo issues, but we'll try to work through it.
Hold on. Is it me or?
I don't know. Let's see. All right. In the meantime, let me see which one it is. Don, is it you? No.
I don't. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How's it going, man?
I don't hear. Good. I don't hear any echo over here.
Okay, good, good. All right. John, what's going on, man?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. Okay. Before we talk about the shenanigans that went on in the gold and silver industry, I wanted to talk about a few things that are going on in sports cars right now. And I want to address the situation with the individual I will call as the great negotiator. So, long story short, what happened was the other day he blocked me on Instagram, and then he said on my comment section, "Hey, come join my live stream." And then he was talking about how my channel was too small and blah 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 blah. Long story short, people questioned him on the live stream on why he was putting a $1,600 card that he bought on eBay and why he was saying that I bought it for $2,500. So, these type of tactics are shady, but it goes beyond the great negotiator. And I've invited him to come on my program. It goes in regards to this monopoly that we have in the sports card industry with PSA. And PSA, they own Golden, they own all these other companies, and they are very silent, in my opinion, when it comes to all of the shenanigans going on. And now we have the situation with Zero Cool. And before I get into the comments, not the comments, before I get on John and Don, I'm going to read some comments. The great one, I can't wait to hear this. Bob Lewis says, "Hey, everybody." Bob Lewis says, "Sounds good." Great one says, "Not true." The great one says, "False." All right. And Kurt Smith says, "I wonder how the great curator paid sports card investors to pump his cards up in multiple videos. I cannot confirm or deny that." Okay. But Don, regarding Zero Cool, what are your thoughts about this? I mean, you have left the hobby for the past year. So what are your thoughts about all these shenanigans going on with this?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, Don. Yeah. Did you freeze up, Don? Oh, great. Alrighty. So John, I told you about while Don gets his situation under control or his video under control. What do you think about this Zero Cool product? I told you about this. They're creating animal products, or not animal products. They're creating animal cards, and it seems kind of not shady, but they're selling it for $2,100 a box. And obviously, you come from the gold and silver industry, and we saw all the shenanigans there. But what are your initial thoughts about
Well,
this?
the animal cards. It does remind me of when what a lot of oh shoot. Sorry, that's just Microsoft Office. Anyway, it did remind me of it just popped up randomly. It did remind me of the in gold and silver they used to do this confiscation story, and what they would do is, and for those of you who don't know, in 1933, FDR confiscated people's gold, and basically this is a little history lesson. So gold was $20 an ounce, and then once it was sort of confiscated from citizens, it was revalued at $33 an ounce. And so they would end up selling these numismatics or certified gold coins, and they would market them as either non-confiscatable. And the main reason is, what they didn't tell you in this thing is that, yeah, they did have an executive order. They did sort of confiscate it, but it was done sort of on an involuntary thing. It was sort of done like you would turn it in. They weren't going to go hunt you or make it, arrest you if you had gold or didn't turn it in. But but what they did is these two types of coins. They were the new St. Gaudens double eagles or Gaudens, and $2.50 or $3 Indian gold coins. They marketed them as either numismatics or collectibles or confiscatable, and they would jack up the prices 60, 70, 80, 90%, way above the spot price. So if gold went up 50%, you might actually still be underwater selling these products. And that's I would say, the biggest scam in that industry in the that they did. And a lot of people lost a lot of money doing that. And these animal cards and a lot of these cards that really don't have any there's a saying, I don't know if your audience, because this is a sports card business, with intrinsic value. And what intrinsic value is, it's value in and of itself. For example, like I was on your show a while ago and I talked about the Sam Vincent card, and I guess they say the value is Jordan had the number 12 on it. But to me, that's not intrinsic value. The intrinsic value would be Sam Vincent career in and of itself. I'm not saying like anything bad about him. Like, if you make it to the NBA, that's an accomplishment of itself.
Yeah, I think
And
what you're trying to say, sorry to interrupt, but last year during the top of the market, we saw that Sam Vincent card. It was the PSA 10 was selling for what, $550, right?
yeah,
Yeah, and you came on my show and you were talking about how even though you didn't have any knowledge, too much knowledge about the sports card industry, the fact that you saw the Sam Vincent card at such a high price, you were able to call it a bubble and this thing would coming down. Could you elaborate more on that?
yeah. In that, there was no intrinsic value of a Sam Vincent card in and of itself. It was only that one that had Jordan as a number 12. And generally speaking, like during the .com scams, and even during the gold and silver scams, one of the scams that is that a lot of companies would just have the word gold in it, and it would go up. And it had nothing to do with mining or even gold related company. It just had the word gold in it. So to me, that was one of the scams, is they'll sell stuff with not really intrinsic value. Like a Michael Jordan card that says Michael Jordan on it, that has intrinsic value because Jordan products in and of itself have value as a collectible. Uh, so that's the first thing. A lot of these cards, and then a lot of grading agencies started to really change their standards. Turns the PSA 8s, the PSA 9s. People would send these things in. I had friends, this wasn't you, but I actually had other friends in the sports cards industries, and they were always wondering, well, how come these cards, I would send in cards with this type of condition. I would get a PSA 8 or 9 graded, and now they're sending them back with really low grades. What's going on? And I was like, they're artificially manipulating the supply. They don't want the supply to go expand greatly. So that's probably what it is. According to one of your comments,
Yeah,
Vincent charges
so that Sam
20 bucks
Vincent
now.
card is probably $20 now.
Yeah.
Actually, the PSA 10, I was looking at it the other day. I think it's about $160. PSA 9 is trading behind. It's around $35 to $51. So there has been a large, you could say, crash in the past year. And a lot of the industry I noticed wasn't talking about the bubble last year. There were some content creators talking about it, and it just seems really strange that now everyone wants to talk about how this happened. It's a little bit of Monday morning quarterbacking, in my opinion. Last decade, we could talk about more about some of the scams that we saw, and I told you about this Karl Marx guy, Marx cards, right? And
Yeah, you told me a bit about him, but
yeah, he was running it looked to be a Ponzi scheme where he took customer money and he was using that to, pay his bills, right? So, long story short, we had this situation with Jeff Berwick. Can you explain more about what happened then?
yeah, well, there was a couple of things. Actually, have another a better example than Berwick. I
Yeah,
can
go
do.
ahead.
You can actually do Berwick, and I can do this one. Is the junior mining industry would do the same thing? They would overpromise about these great projects, high grades, and just in terms of like gold grades. Since your audience is sports card, it's just pretend it's the same thing. If you had a high grade sports card, very valuable. But in terms of mining, if it was a high grade, that means it's cheap to mine and easy and cost efficient. And they would talk about these great land packages they would have and how historic they were. And in mining industry, if it's just there's a saying, if you want to find oil, go to a abandoned oil field. That's where you find it the most. And the same thing with mining. So anyway, a lot of them would do what you call capital shares, where they would issue shares of their company into the market, and a lot of like big investors would buy them. And when I mean big investors, I'm talking about institutions, not people like me, you, and who's listening to this stream. Maybe there are some people listening. You never know who's listening right now. So maybe someone on the institutions are, but for the most part, probably not. So anyway, what they would do is they would count on the market to pay their salaries. And so a lot of these companies, and when I was in the precious metal industry, I knew a guy in one of those institutions, and I actually got to go to some of their dinners. And they would go to take that money, instead of investing it in the business or trying to put this mine in production, they would travel to five-star hotels. They would uh, buy, 5-course dinners, go to nice bars, and they would write it off as business expenses. And some of these companies, like One Colossus Minerals, they literally raised money on the market. I remember in 2013, 2 or 3 months before they actually went bankrupt, they went to the market, raised a lot of money, said they had watering problems before they could get this mine in production. And then a couple months later, they missed a debt payment and they went into bankruptcy. And a lot of people lost their shirts investing in that company. I actually invested in it too. I didn't invest that much money, but this was notorious within the junior mining industry. And you see it with people now having storage things and sports cards and doing whatnot. I don't know too much about it because I got into the sports card industry in 2019. As you know the sports cards I bought.
Yeah.
I can tell people more about my philosophy on it, but when I saw a lot of these insane promises, just like the junior mining companies would promise all these investors this, it was just pattern recognition.
Yeah, it's definitely pattern recognition, and a lot of people probably in the next few years are going to be asking a lot of questions on why the influencers didn't talk too much about what's going to come. All right, I'm going to go to some of the comments. The gaming god LJ, I somewhat disagree with you on F1 cards. I believe they have room to go to grow. However, I agree with you in general. Nobody wants to budge on prices. Everyone wants top dollar and prices out of hand. Yeah. Regarding F1 cards, okay, we can agree to disagree. Um, now, I think that all the prices were a good buy in 2020. Some of these markets like UFC, no one was buying Marvel as well. That was a good time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in regards to all these prices, well, you have to look on eBay. All of these prices right now are, or not all, but if you look at the Mahomes prices, those are shill bid. If you look at, for instance, a lot of these zero cool cards, in my opinion, they're shill bid, and no one's talking about it. Okay, let's go to this comment, the great one. I'm not sure if this is the great negotiator. Let me ask you, Mr. AIH, if you're selling a house, do you run it down first or do you prop it up? Well, there's a way of doing that. Sleazy tactics, in my opinion, is not the way to go. And if someone's saying that a card is 1,600, they buy for $1,600, and then in a video 4 days later they say that, hey, look, it's 2,500 bucks. I think that is sleazy, in my opinion. And I was given other information that the great negotiator was pumping up the comps, artificially inflating, and saying it was much different. So I don't believe in shady tactics. I don't think that's the right way to go.
That also reminded me of one other thing in
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
industry. What you just said about pumping up the cost. One thing that the mining industry also used to do that was very tactics, very sleazy, was they would, when they would go advertise to investors, they would say, "Oh yeah, the cash cost of this, I'll just use silver, is $5 an ounce." And then when you finally looked at their cash flow, they had negative cash flows. Their operating costs were horrible, but that wasn't really exposed until a lower cost environment, and they have eventually had to create a new industry average called all-in sustaining costs, because cash cost was just pure extraction, but all-in sustaining costs is the cost of capital related to getting those ounces out, not just the pure extraction cost. And that was just a legal way of misleading people to raise capital in the industry, and that's basically what it reminded me of, misleading sales.
Yeah, I mean, remember Crash JP Morgan, buy silver, crash JP Morgan. Yeah.
Yeah.
They use like these tactics like this. A lot of people bought into it. And, people are going to turn on, guys like Max Kaiser, like they're going to turn on some of these influencers.
Well, the guys have turned on Max Kaiser
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, even though Kaiser was bullish on Bitcoin, I'll give him that. Okay,
Yeah.
JK, it's all going to crash. Yield curve inverted, and housing contracts are being canceled. Perfect storm. Yeah, speaking of the yield curve, if you look at the 7-year yield versus the 10-year yield, that is inverted, not a good sign. So when I see a lot of people being aggressive at this time, that's not the time to be aggressive. The time to be aggressive, in my opinion, is when no one really is buying. So a lot of people are buying. We're going to have this great reset. We're going to have a recession, and that phrase, John. What does the World Economic Forum say? What's that
You
phrase?
will earn nothing and be happy.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's what it is. All
No.
right. Richard Perez says, "Dang, Thanos coming soon." All right, the Great One. All right, let me just add, anyone who calls himself the Great One, it sounds a bit egotistical. All right, he positive, and positive things will happen, little-minded man. Okay, it looks like you might be the great negotiator. Okay, I don't know why, if you are, why you create another
I'll
stream.
just say this in
Yeah.
terms of positivity. No one was more positive about a market than the gold and silver market. The retailers,
The
and I mean
pumpers.
retail investors. I mean, they literally bought into. They literally thought they could bring down J.P. Morgan by buying silver, as you said, and they literally thought they could break the banks.
Yeah.
And I mean, positivity is nice, but that's an individual thing. When you're looking at a market, you have to be realistic. And
Yeah, exactly. You have to be realistic. You have to be objective. And I read this book by Howard Marks. I don't know if you read it, but he said in terms of investing and speculating, you have to be objective. And when it comes to, for instance, the your own attitude, I believe that you need to be positive. You need to turn a negative into a positive. You need to work out. You need to, some people may need to do yoga, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the fact is that if you're an individual and you just keep on blocking people on YouTube because you can't face the heat, I mean, I think that's an issue, and you can't look at it from an objective perspective. Then you're going to be left holding the bag, in my opinion, in the coming years of all these sports cards. All right, Richard Perez, that guy sounds familiar. Yeah, he sounds like the great negotiator, right? Right. He tells me to come on Instagram and he blocks me, and then it may have looked like he's creating a fake or one of his other accounts. It's quite interesting. The great one, you got to be a Wall Street guy, a Wall Street pumper. Gaming God, thanks for the response. Much appreciated. Yes, I try to respond to people rather than block people like
oh
that.
yeah, another thing that
Yeah.
really got me to see a top two is when I heard Kevin Durant was getting into this and
Oh
buying
yeah, yeah.
a lot of these. I was like,
Yeah, that's the top. I mean,
yeah,
like Durant was getting in on Top Shot over a year ago. He got into Star Stock, right? So you called it last year in your video. I mean, you were saying that all these celebrities are coming in, and with all these celebrities, guess what? You know, they're not experts in terms of investing and speculating. They're good at entertainment. And what do you think when Drake comes into the ballgame? I mean, he's getting involved in sports card breaks. So you think that that's also another, not a topping sign, but that's just a warning sign, in your opinion?
oh yeah. The thing is, when I say like these celebrities are getting in, I don't mean this like I'm not insulting their intelligence. I'm not saying they're not. They're very intelligent people who aren't good at investing because investing is a completely different game than just even intelligence because you have your emotions. You have to unlearn stuff. You have to go against the norm. You have to do stuff that's very, very unpopular with inner circles and personal things because uh, certain, just because, that's how you make money. Warren Buffett even said he's a contrarian when he buys stocks. Well, now he's not. But when he was actually a good investor, uh, now I don't really see much about him. I think most of the people does his stuff, but when he was buying cigarette companies in the 70s and a lot of other stuff, he was acting as sort of contrarian.
Yep, indeed. Let's go through some of the comments. Brendan Ryan, lizard brain pattern detection is akin to tarot card readings. Data metrics are not the end all be all. Brendan, are you talking about some of these card tools? I think you're talking about that. JK, none of you guys watched the movement of the past 3 years. It started in basketball, then modern QBs, then vintage and Marvel. Wall Street money is moving fast. Could be pumps and dumps, right? And I believe some of that hot money went into UFC as well.
Mm-hmm.
CNT Collectibles, how's it going, man? All right. Twos and tens inverted usually takes a year and a half of recession to come to fruition. 3 month, 10 years more immediate, but yeah, the countdown has begun. Yeah. And he's talking about the yield curve inversion. Yeah, what I'm looking at is the 3 month versus the 10 year. That is still upward sloping. Also, what I like looking at, which not a lot of people look at, is the Fed funds rate versus the 10 year. and that will probably invert in the next few years. Alrighty. Vintage is pumped out this world. People are grading every card they can. Money grab. Alrighty. Don't listen to C&T. Very shady character. Okay, I bet that's sarcasm. The Brandon Ryan. The question is, who do you trust? The people bringing you the data? No oversight regulations. The Wild West. In terms of the data, you could fact check the data. So I'll give you this example right now. I was planning to do a video on this. So you had Patrick Mahomes Optic Hollow PSA 10. I just saw this the other day, and it sold for $3,200. But guess what? It was another zero review situation. And what happened was both of the market data tools showed the sale at $3,200. Market movers removed it the other day, or today, I believe, and the other one still had it. So you have to ask yourself, do we trust these market data tools? I don't. I'd rather look at the sale itself and go from there. I think that fair market value of the Patrick Mahomes Optic Hollow PSA 10 as of this moment is about $3,200. Alrighty. Now, baseball is being pumped. Young players' autos are being pumped. It's not going to crash. The upper end cards will always have demand for them. Well, you have to. Okay, go ahead, John.
Go ahead.
Okay, what I was saying is that if you look at what happens to the upper end cards, they do fall, but there will be a demand for them. And the thing is, guess what? All of these cards, John, you could attest to this. Don't you agree that all of these cards were artificially inflated because the Federal Reserve pumped up all this money into the system that we have never seen in our lifetime?
Yes. Oh, definitely. They and you had stimulus checks, and not only that, you had just incredibly low interest, artificially low interest rates. And this is similar to gold and silver, where what it drives it is real rates. And now the Fed, they're raising rates, so that will affect real rates, the Fed funds rate. It's really the 10-year Treasury minus the CPI. I know the CPI is BS, but the markets care about it for now, so it matters. In terms of young players being pumped up and autos, they generally have value, but in terms of young players, that is a sign of a bubble too, because Zion Williamson, for example,
It already crashed though. Design Williams.
yeah, it already crashed, but I'm talking about when it was going up. Generally speaking, what was being done was they were pricing in basically a Hall of Fame career, and he was a rookie. And then when he got injured, it started to crash, and they had to start pricing out all those Hall of Fame, I guess, stats or rings or whatever into the market. But in this case, I would say young people being traded like Hall of Famers, that is the sign of a bubble. And that's what also was happening with gold in general, is after QE2, what really put an end to it was Operation Twist. Even though they still had low real rates and whatnot, they thought QE was going to go on forever, and I mean just never stopping. Like QE did go on again, but it took breaks. And so when Operation Twist happened, they had to start pricing out QE3, QE4, QE5. And gold has now come back to those all-time highs because the Fed started doing QE again, and they had to price that back in. But if you see a lot of young rookie players being traded like Hall of Fame players, that's a sign of a bubble, because they've priced in a lot of Hall of Fame credentials, and most of them won't be Hall of Famers, and you got to price those out. So
yeah, indeed, that is indeed true. I mean, looking at real rates, I look at the 10-year tips. Right now, I believe that's close to negative 60 basis points. So, in technicality, that is good for collectibles, but collectibles went up like crazy because we're locked up at home. And now what's going up, what went up was Marvel, but that's being pumped up by influencers. Yeah. All right, C&T
one last thing too is right now we're at really bad negative rates. Like inflation's at 7 to 8%, and real rates are at like 0.25%. But the thing is, I think over the next 6 or 8 months, even though rates I don't think will rise that much, with the way the Fed talks, and you've heard of this jawboning the market. I think the market's going to start pricing in a lot more hikes.
Yeah, I mean, the Fed funds futures talking about what I think 5 to 6 more rate hikes in the coming years. So, yeah, that's where it is. Okay. Comment. CNT Collectibles, great one. Egotistical. Hey, Wayne Gretzky. Yeah, yeah. If the great one is the great negotiator, that guy is really cocky. I mean, you always talk about being positive. I think you need to check your ego if that is you. All right. Looks like Will is out on good behavior for the night. All right. Brett Simmons, what's going on? All right.
Do I look like someone named Will, or I don't know?
No, I don't know, man. All right. Benji Bronk, the great hanky pink, or the great hanky pinkier. Yeah, that's what you could call him. Maybe I should call him the great avoider. If that is the great avoider coming in and that screen name, I don't block him and he blocks me. So what does that show about him? Will Sanny, I took my meds today. Okay, good to know, man. All right. JK, upper end cards won't hold value. They will crash too, especially Panini upper end. Fake patches, none of it game war, 30 different parallels. Yeah, like in terms of all of those stuff, I'm pretty sure those will go down. In terms of the higher end cards, I'm talking about the Gretzky's of the world, the scarce card, what was it, the 79 Peachy? Stuff like that over long periods of time, in my opinion, will hold value. Okay, the great one. People just need to be smarter in today's market, Mr. AIH. Well, today, what goes up is basically what's being pumped up, long story short. And all that investment money coming into cards like Marvel, in my opinion, that's a selling opportunity for things that have gone up like crazy. All right, CNT Collectibles, you can get yourself the good stuff, I hope. All right, the gaming god LJ. My question is why nobody's talking about Star Stock. They done and have been for a while. There have been videos from content creators about Star Stock, and the fact that they laid off a bunch of people, that's not a good sign. I mean, you could look at last year, all these people, Durant was investing in it. I mean, that was just, a red flag to me. I mean, I played around with it, but it wasn't, thousands and thousands of dollars that other people did. All right. Let's look at this. Will Sandy, yes, I keep the fentanyl titrated just right. Oh boy. Will Sandy, can we just get AIH and Great Avoider to do a steel cage match? Put it on closed circuit TV. I'll pay. I'll rather do a debate with him, but I don't think he will. Maybe he wants the job with Fanatics or something like that, so that's why he won't come on and won't answer tough questions. All right.
I think you got this hat at Fanatics.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with Fanatics. I'm just saying, like, I believe this guy is, trying to, be fake and saying all these things to get a job with them and move up in the industry. Over here, we try to speak the truth as much as we can. All right, JK, people need to be smarter, period. Don't call these assets. Think of what happens to asset with a divorce or the IRS. Yeah, speaking of that, John, so we know that there's probably going to be taxes on billionaires and then soon millionaires, more maybe estate taxes. Do you think that they're going to come after collectibles because of this? And people in the future are going to go more towards collectibles because of potential hikes on not real estate, but estate taxes?
I think people will go into them, but I mean, in terms of tax advice, since I have to say I'm not a tax advisor, first off, so anything said is solely an opinion. So, and as we say, always pay your taxes. It's the one of the two things you can't avoid in life. But in terms of collectibles, I think they could be. But the only thing is, what scares me is they're talking about a net wealth tax. And that will be a royal major pain, because then you have to get that I forget the word exactly. That it's valued, but what's the actual word? It begins. I think it begins with an A. Oh,
Yeah,
appraised every year. So it's possible collectibles actually crash, because you might have to get these appraised every year,
that'd be crazy.
especially a Michael Jordan rookie card. And that will just be a complete disaster, because you can imagine, I have a bunch of cards from when I was a child. They could be worth a lot, or it might not be worth much at all. I haven't really gone through them. But can you imagine like having to get those appraised, and then if you found like, one of those, I have a Calrican auto from when I was a child. I don't even know where it is actually. I know that sounds irresponsible, but can you imagine if I didn't know I had that, and then I had to get it appraised, and then I was unable to find it, so I couldn't get it appraised, and now there's a problem. So it might actually scare people, the net wealth tax. Of course, right now they're how they work is they're going to. I think you said this in a video months ago, but they'll go for only the billionaires. But then it's like the income tax. The way they
Yeah, they started out gradually and they're gonna move up down the line. But yeah, I hope they don't go after the collectibles like that. All
so
right.
it could get people in it, but it could also have the opposite effect. So I mean, yeah, that's the other thing about investing. Be ready for anything. If I had that complete positive mindset, I'd be like, "Oh, this is great. I'll buy a lot." But you have to think of the other side, because when you're investing, you're not always in control.
That's true. And who knows if you were buying a fake, right? All
Yeah,
right. Brett Simmons, football cards are awesome. Yeah, I definitely like football cards. The great one, Mr. AIH, if you don't love it, then leave it. Please don't blank on my livelihood. Oh, so are you the great negotiator? Oh, okay. Okay. It looks like you're showing your signs again here. Okay. I mean, if you are the great negotiator, why did you block me on Instagram, bro? I'm ask. I mean, you could come on my program anytime, and we could discuss shield bidding. We could discuss why the influencers and all the people in the hobby aren't saying anything. You want to talk about that? You want to talk about how these shield bid Mahomes cards, how no one's talking about that? You want to talk about how these cards are getting pumped up? You want to talk about all that? Come on my program anytime. We'll talk instead of blocking me like that. Richard Perez, Patrick Mahomes will never catch Tom Brady in Super Bowl wins. Yeah, I think it's harder when Tyreek Hill's traded. He needs to have a good receiver. Hopefully, they get more receivers. You don't believe Jeff Wilson when he says Fanatics will greatly expand the market in the next few years? No, not right now. I think Fanatics is going to be big in the coming years. The thing is, though, if you look at it, they're going to probably have the whole marketplace by then when the card market bottoms out, in my opinion. All right. Tristan Lee. Rare will always have demand. It's the Prism blank that's tanking and the base stuff. All right. Thanks for your comment. Brandon Ryan, what happens to the guy buying a card with the corrupt data? If bought before the last sale date completed was removed, time for artificial intelligence. Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, the criticism that I have of these market tools is I believe the shield bids, if they find a shield bid and the person doesn't pay, there's a time lag in how many days it's removed. Market movers, I believe, removed that Patrick Mahomes shield bid sale within 2 days. The other application, I didn't see it. This was earlier today, so unless they removed it some time ago. All right. All right. I live on eBay. 90% of auctions are shield bid. The second bidder usually has a low feedback, 0 to no more than 7. Bidders cancel on me every day. Yeah, we're going to see more of this in the coming years because a lot of people are underwater. You see this on zero cool cards all the time. You see the second highest bid has about what 0 reviews. So there's definitely some hanky panky going on regards to that. So
I was gonna say, in terms of fraud generally starts happening when people make money. Generally speaking, like the housing bubble, they started selling, I believe, in 2005 or 2006, CDOs, which was collateralized debt obligations, and then that way they could just say, "Oh yeah, it's diversified," because a lot of people started getting suspicious of solely housing debt or credit card debt, or so they would take the bad debt and mix it with the good, and that way they can get it off their books. So I mean, sports cards. What a lot of people investing in this, I don't think they realize, like, to a lot of generalists, I guess, they're sports fans. So I got my hat, and they have cards and whatnot, but they're not into finance or markets, which is okay. A lot of people aren't. But what they don't realize is they're in a market. They're not, it's not solely about, home runs or points or touchdowns thrown.
yeah,
And
exactly.
people trading cards, like, this is a market. And same thing with dot coms. So during the dot com bubble, there was businesses that literally were just dot coms, and their whole business plan was to take it to Wall Street, get an IPO, which is initial public offering, and then they got rich. They
Yep.
sold it onto the market. They got all that Wall Street money. They went home. Uh, they went home nice, and then when it went bankrupt, it was publicly traded. They weren't liable anymore.
Yeah. So the other thing, adding onto the collateral debt obligations that you're talking about. So what Wall Street did back then is they marketed these mortgage-backed securities, whatever, as liquid securities, but they weren't liquid. I see a similar situation. These snake oil guys in this industry are marketing these sports cards as liquid, but if you look at some of this high-end stuff, that's not liquid. That's another sales pitch that they're using, and these sales snake oil sales tactics, in my opinion, I mean that's not good for the hobby, in my opinion.
I never sold sports cards, but I have experience in selling collectibles like rare coins
Nope.
and whatnot. And no collectible is liquid.
Yeah, exactly. It's not liquid. I mean, like, someone may say, "Hey, liquidity means the ability to turn something quickly into cash." Well, I look at it from a bid and ask perspective. Like the amount to buy versus the amount the person's asking for. And if the spread is wide, that's not a liquid market. That's how I view liquidity. Some people look at it as, "Hey, look, I could turn it into cash." Okay, that's your opinion. All right. This is why don't some comments I'll go through. Tristan Lee. This is why you don't crown players before they've proved themselves. Exactly. A lot of people did, and a lot of people are underwater, and they're getting their cards back from PSA. All right. Richard Perez, Zion Williamson cards were already baked in. Yes. Brendan Ryan, don't think shill bidding will ever truly be eradicated. Yeah, it's not going to go away. I mean, some people are telling me that it's happening on all types of platforms. Okay, it's not only eBay, it's all. And some people said, "Hey, it's happening on Whatnot." I don't use Whatnot, so I cannot attest to that. Now, in terms of some of these bigger auction houses, I don't know what goes on there in terms of Golden, in terms of Heritage. I mean, that's just another ball game, in my opinion. All right, Tristan Lee says hype sells. Yes, it definitely sells. It was great for the industry over a year ago. All right, Brett Simmons, football card values or football cards aren't that okay? Thanks for saying that again. All right, C&T collectibles, always never tough to take comments seriously when those words are in them. Yep. Brendan Ryan says, looks like pending an economic miracle, Joe Biden will be a one-time president. Already in November, Wall Street money moved to baseball. Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette were getting pumped massively. Tatis and Soto as well. I didn't look at the baseball card markets as intensely. Will Sanny, Chad, who needs nuance. All right. JK says eBay will never stop shill bidding. It makes them more money. All right, John, do you want to talk about the time, when I was talking about Mark's cards and when it came to what happened in regards to the situation Jeff Berwick in Chile?
Oh well, Jeff Berwick in Chile. That was a funny one. No, it wasn't funny actually at all. So anyway, what he had was some like John Galt inspired uh, anarcho-capitalist sort of getaway where he basically sold a bunch of people about coming to live in this complete free society in Chile, which talk I don't know, it just baffles me. I don't think of maybe Chile has some economic freedom measurements, but I don't know. Anyway, he was selling all these people on this sort of great, I guess, reservation, self-sustaining, and all this other stuff. And basically, what he claimed is the person he made deals with took the money and ran and just left. And that's what basically happened, is that all the people who invested bought property there. The people they were selling to were actually I would say in the upper echelon of wealth. They weren't billionaires, but they were really well off people, definitely millionaires. And they were selling all sorts of property, and they just took the money and they left. And that was actually very common in the industry. Uh, I'm not going to say who else happened, but I remember in my industry when I was selling, there was someone who made third party deals to store metal in, I forget where in Latin America, but South America, not Central. And as soon as they got the money to store all these types of metals, they took it and ran. And there was no way to, since they were not U.S. citizens or U.S. citizenry, they were just living in South America. There was no way to really get after them. So luckily, people bought insurance. There was insurance. And so a lot of people didn't lose money in this case. But yeah, with Jeff Berwick, though, people lost their shirts because they didn't have any insurance on the homes. They didn't have a lot of different things. But I even read one time there was not even homes or anything resembling a sustainable community even being built. There was like a water pipeline or like some plumbing, and that's it. And then they stopped.
Yeah, it was a Ponzi scheme, and just like with I'll call him Karl Marx, he took the money and he didn't segregate the funds. And who defends this guy? It was the great negotiator. The great negotiator keeps on defending him. I guess he defends Ponzi schemes, right? Alrighty, C&T Collectibles, not comment sections. Brandon Ryan, laugh out loud. Okay.
The other thing too is like when dealing with the industry one, with the storage one in South America, they did the same thing where they bought a storage, big storage facility, whatnot. They spent some of the money on that, and then they took the rest and ran. And they just made it look like they were, and that was mainly to raise more money. So yeah, that was very, very
sketchy.
Yeah, very sketchy. But unfortunately it's common in markets, and it happens generally at the top of markets or in the beginning. Like bear markets run in stages. The first stage of the bear market where people are in denial a bear market is coming or is here, and you might want to stay away from this asset for a while.
Yeah, so that Karl Marx thing happened all that Ponzi was going on last year towards the top of the market. And also when PSA was shut down, or I think it happened when PSA shut down. So right after the top of the market, and this came into light early this year, and that's when all this crazy stuff is going on.
Yeah, the Jeff Berwick thing came into light in around
2014.
2000. Yeah, that was, a lot of these fraud schemes, if they're real, if you all you hear about is fraud, like the .com bubble or the housing bubble, that can be a sign of a bottom, actually.
Yeah, I don't think we're at a bottom though in sports cards.
No, we're not.
Yeah, I
By
mean
any
it'd have to
stretch.
be a positive interest rates.
Yeah.
All right, Brendan Ryan, 20% wealth tax going to be like a Led Zeppelin. All right. All right. You definitely, Brett, you definitely like autographs and football cards. There are so many undervalued cards. The problem is no one wants to buy them. In regards to undervalued cards, I'm looking at some Gretzky, some Jordan cards as well. Basically under $40 that are graded. Could be shipped to my house. All right. The Who's Guy. Wait, let me get this. The Who's Guy, most watchers than the great curator. Richard Perez. The Great One. Is this a fake account, The Great One? Or is someone posing as him? Mr. AIH is just jealous of my success. If this is the great curator and you're coming onto my screen like this, I mean, you're pretty childish, man. I mean, you blocked me on your own account. This is just interesting, man. The Great One is weak, whoever he is. Yeah, I mean, whoever has an egotistical mindset like that just shows you that, you need to get your ego in check. Just what happens to your sports cards, when this great reset happens and the recession happens. Mr. X2M, the fake one, yeah, that you call him. The pumper one. The growth from Fanatics is going to come outside of the big three sports. That may be the case.
What does he consider the big three? I'm assuming basketball, football, baseball.
Yeah, I'm assuming those are the three.
I always called it the big four, but
Just like accounting.
yeah.
CNC Collectibles need one of those wrench guys in here. Will Sandy, yes, AIH wrench us. Your foot soldiers await you. Oh wait, the AIH army, doesn't he call it what, the curator army or something like that?
Oh, sweet! You got some foot soldiers now.
Yeah, I got some foot soldiers now. I never thought I'd get foot soldiers. Damn, man. I guess I have a small channel. So John,
You should go ahead.
yeah, he called my channel like a small channel. So but then he decides to respond to me on Instagram, but then blocks me, but tells me to come on. But it's just interesting. What is Richard Perez? What is your take of that BGS 10 Kobe Bryant Topps Chrome rookie card, which is trim that sold in PWCC auction recently? Yeah, if that story is true, I want to be careful with my words. That is definitely shady. And yeah, I have used PWCC. I think all of us has used PWCC, but once they went on their own platform, I've avoided using it. But yeah, there's a lot of hanky-panky going on.
Oh, speaking of trimmed accounts, one thing I saw on sports cards was they can say you can own a part. This is a classic sign of a top, is when they said you can own part of a Jordan PSA 10, or you can own part of
Fractionals.
rare fractional collectibles. And in the precious metals industry, they used to do those same things: pooled silver accounts, pooled gold accounts. I rarely see them anymore. And how they sold it to you was, what we do is we just put a bunch of silver in there and we just pull it together, and there was no storage fees.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, there's no storage fees because they're leasing it and renting it out, or for people to trade on the market. So I mean, yeah, any of that was another sort of scam that I sort of saw, and I was like, yeah, this is a sign of a top. People are just getting way too cocky. Yeah, own part of a Wayne Gretzky hockey stick. Well, it's not.
Yeah. And the thing
You
is,
don't hold it, you don't own it.
yeah, exactly. If you don't own it, or yeah, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Yep, I say that all the time. We still remember that fractionals. I don't. I'm not a fan of. Buy what's cool for you. Right. Buy what's cool for you. Value is subjective. Yeah, I do have my own collection. I've showed some of my autographs that I buy. It's my collection mainly consists based on a Chicago basis. So, at the I was talking to Rolling with FD the other day, and I told him that, hey, I just bought a Rizzo auto at the Chicago Spectacular Show. I mean, I can find a good auto on eBay, so I found it at the show. The great one, Mr. AIH lives in a box. He doesn't have the brain capacity to think big like me. I wonder if this is a fake account. But if this is really him, oh my God, this is quite interesting. See, I don't block people, unlike the great negotiator or the great avoider. I don't think that is the real great one. Laugh out loud. Diversification doesn't work when you let John Paulson strip out the good tranches. Oh yeah, definitely. Oh man.
Well, I'm not. I'm a fan of diversification in some sense, but not in the sense that like Wall Street tells it, like buy like 90 different stocks, but it's not really diversification in one asset. But I would say in terms of sports cards, what you should do is just buy the best of the best. When this bear market comes, I do think Jordans and Gretzky's, I don't think they won't be spared, but those are what you will want to buy in the
coming bear market. I mean, that's what I'm looking
at the bottom, because generally speaking, the best of the best coming out, they're the first ones to rise. And so if you get a lot of them, you can sell some of them and get more speculative ones.
Right.
But they're just the first to recover.
Yep, that's how it was. Like 2008 stock market crash. I believe Apple bottomed out in November 2008, if I remember correctly. Right? Will Sandy, he's a fun little troll, though. I'm enjoying it with a little nice cab. Teddy, Jeff Wilson is a true snake oil salesman, sells delusions of grandeur, market movers, pays to watch your cards go down. I'll defend market movers here. They did get rid of that shill bid, or what seemed to be a shill bid. The other applications did not get rid of it when I saw in the morning, unless they got rid of it during the maybe in the last few hours, unless they got rid of it. All right. Punt, pass, click. Shield bidding is common in every auction. Ever watch Storage Wars? People drive up prices all the time. No, I haven't watched that show, but I'm
Well,
sure
we're seeing that in terms of scams or show building. We see BlackRock buying up all these lands that no one wants. Everyone talks about them owning everything and then renting it out. I'm like, no, that's more of a sign of a market top.
Yeah, I mean, Martin Armstrong is giving warnings about BlackRock. I wonder if he's true, because I thought BlackRock is one of the most diversified companies out there. So, his AI is saying that, hey, something could happen with it, but we will see in the next few years.
Yeah.
Teddy, comp so easy to manipulate. Go sell your cards to the last seller of comp. Yeah, comps. I'm skeptical of comps, especially with all these shield bids coming in. In this marketplace, you need real money and vision. Mr. AIH, you have neither. Okay. All right, Teddy. Mark's cards, degenerate gambler. Looks like he's getting away with it. Yeah, I heard some rumblings that weren't so good about him. And remember, the great negotiator was defending this guy. So just keep that in mind. Brandon Ryan, it's funny that despite the crooks in the hobby, it's still worthwhile and fun. They can't take that away. Yes, it definitely is fun, Like I said, I bought this Rizzo auto the other day. That's nice, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, CNT Collectibles, that's right. Hit that like button. Smash that like button, man.
Yeah.
There you go. Brandon, explain the link to Lizard Brain and Tarot cards, please. All right. All right, Teddy. It's still fun. Book burnings. I want the Pelican case burning. Rosani, collectibles used to go to Napa cabs, but cheaper nowadays. Just go with some lake. Okay. All right, let's go here. Oh, whoa. I scrolled up. All right. Okay, good to know, Brett. The great one. I can no longer listen to this dribble of negativity. I think my wife's calling. Have a good night, little-minded man. Okay. So someone is going on an ego trip tonight. Aaron Rodgers is the GOAT. Well, the problem is Rodgers didn't win any Super Bowls, or he won one Super Bowl. I do like Rodgers though. A lot of people don't like Rodgers. I don't know. Do you like it, A-Rod?
Yeah, I like Aaron Rodgers. He's definitely one of my favorite players now.
No.
Uh, that wasn't the case for a while, but I mean, uh,
Nope. Okay.
yeah,
Joey M. Was that Karl Marx character a PSA authorized submitter? I believe Karl Marx was an authorized PSA submitter. Yep, he was. And all right. Brendan Ryan, it's got to be fake. All right. Ryan McClanahan, there's a lot of undervalued vintage football and basketball these days. Are either one of you doing vintage? So I have been looking at some vintage. I want to buy probably when the market goes down a little further for me to buy. It is valuable because they're culturally irrelevant. Okay, John, do you have anything else to say before we head off for the night? I'm going to go through the comments before I leave too, but anything that you noticed in the gold and silver industry that was shady or a snake oil salesman, and then I could relate to sports cards.
yeah. Well, I mean, the numismatics where they bid those up drastically. The Saint Gaudens double eagles and the uh, Indians, like as I said. But the thing with those is those were artificially bid up, and now you can buy them close to spot price, and they marketed them as rare. And the reality is, they weren't really that rare, and they weren't non-confiscatable. They basically, no one knows why they were never how they survived the confiscation. No one knows why, and so there was. But in terms of the junior mining example, I think is the best, where they would just have all these stories about historic, districts and great grades and revivals. And there was even one scam where they said they had this gold mining in Egypt, and and the reason the Egyptian empire was so big is they had a robust mining industry, which could have been true. They always sprinkled like truths in, like the confiscation, and that company's now just gone in flames. And the reality was, yeah, that's what they marketed: gold mining in Egypt. We're going to rebuild the mining just like the great Egyptian empire. This gets you foot in Africa. And in mining, West Africa is actually a very big gold belt, which most people don't know. But they told a lot of stories, and what those management teams were doing were just taking the money and living the high life.
Just,
And
just
as
like
you
these sports
said,
card guys living the high life and using these snake oil tactics.
yeah,
Nice.
those were the best, and the confiscation tactics. And then the gold and silver also, just the messaging. They started believing everything. Like China is always buying gold because they dealt with so many hyperinflations that it's in their culture. Or India, where there's so much that all they do is buy gold because they dealt with so many inflations. But the reality is like the most famous inflation was Weimar, Germany, and in India, it wasn't because they were uh, gold bugs or value gold as money. It was more the marriage thing.
Yeah, it's a
Or
cultural thing
women, yeah, and so that's
passed on from
really,
generation to generation.
yeah, that's what it was. So there was all sorts of they would mix in certain truths, but completely distort. So I mean, that was with the bullion side. The mining side, I would say, is more what's happening with the sports cards, where and then just artificial control with the market, or uh, that's pretty much all
Alrighty.
I would say in terms of the scams. A lot of it was just messaging and
Yeah, a lot of it here, I think, is messaging, and you also have these pump and dumps going on with these thinly traded markets here in sports cards. The other markets, it's hard for a pump and dump because it's there's more volume, but over here, it's definitely this pump and dumping
oh,
going
there
on.
was one other story that was a
Yeah,
complete scam. Was after the crash, and it's declined, but I mean, I expect it to decline a lot more. After the crash, they to get people to start buying back into the market, they came up with this story that the miners are going to go bankrupt and there'll be no more selling. And that was one of the biggest scams, because the reality was what happened was they just started writing off a lot of bad investments. And so their net incomes were tremendous, but a lot of those income statements, as you and I both know, we're accountants, those were non-cash expenses. That wasn't really a uh, true representation of that company. But they would, as I said, they would mix in truths with this. Like, look at their net income. They lost millions of dollars. Like, that's only a lot of them are non-cash.
yeah,
And one of the reasons also that their incomes were poor, the last couple of years before the crash, is they were mining stuff that normally you wouldn't mine in the same market. But the management teams of all these companies literally thought gold was going to $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 an ounce. So stuff they normally wouldn't mine that would cost 2,000 or 3,000, they started mining in anticipation. And then what happens is a lot of these companies, the mining industry is the only industry now. Speaking sports cars, not the only bubble out there. That's actually free on a industry basis, is actually free cash flowing. And one of the reasons is they're not going to those hard to mine places anymore. They're getting to more cheaper ways. And the last one I have to say is just a lot of these are coming back, is that there was companies looking to mine underwater in the ocean, and they've gone out of business now. But that's how much speculative bubble it got crazy when in 2011, is that these companies were looking at underwater ocean mining uh,
yeah,
companies,
yeah.
and the rookie cards of people like Zion Williamson
Bold.
reminded me of that, like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
pricing in all this ridiculous stuff that hasn't happened.
Yeah, and the thing is that you had all of this speculation right now in what VFriends zero cool cards. I mean, it's nonsense. Just like you're talking about trying to mine underwater or whatever, in the ocean. I mean, this
Yeah,
type of weird activity happens in a time when it's probably not the best time to speculate or be aggressive, in my opinion.
yeah,
But those are my thoughts. All right, let's get to a few more
yeah.
comments.
I wish I knew the name of the company. The company's out of business now.
Yeah,
Uh,
I wonder why.
yeah, I know. So, but yeah.
Yeah, all right, let's look at some few more comments and we could comment on these before we head off.
Mm-hmm.
Michael McDaniel, ballpark guesstimate of when the market will hit the bottom. Great content, by the way. Thank you. I believe the market, the sports card market, will bottom probably between 2025, 2026. Now, there may be opportunities for some people that are speculating now. I'm not saying all cards are going to go down, though. Brendan
Well, I was just gonna say, for all this talk, I don't want if someone sees, as I always say, do your own research and don't make investment decisions based on
on
anything
what
you
we're
hear,
saying.
even this. But anyway, just because we're at a top doesn't mean there aren't good buys out there. And the best example in the gold and silver industry is Franco Nevada was $38 a share in 2011, and now that's like $165, despite gold really going sideways. So it's possible. I don't want to I always say don't invest based on anything I'm saying, and I mean that. So I don't want to deter people from doing stuff. Remember, the decision, it has to be your decision. It can't be anyone else's when you're investing, and that's what you are when you're buying sports cars now. You're an investor.
Yes, make sure to take responsibility for your own self. All right, I'm a big fan of baseball, 1910s, 50s, but go after cricket, tennis, golf, football, horse racing, boxing, basketball, and non-sports. The 48, 53 Bowman and 59 Tops football. Okay, that's an interesting vintage. You're a smart guy, Ryan. I may take a look at some of those cards at a certain time. I think some of the influencers are going to start pumping cricket now after Marvel takes a breather. Aaron Rodgers is a bad man. Oh man. Okay. John Wolf, I'm getting into the early 50s Bowman stuff as well. Extremely low pop counts on everything. Yes, there are low pop counts. Goes. Is AI going to speculate for short-term gains, or is that over? In terms of the stock market, I am speculating, for the next year or so. Short-term gains, I mean, they may be small for some of the sports cards that I have. Obviously, fake account. Looking for patterns for patterns in anything to predict an outcome is as old as the human race. All right. John Earl in football is fun as hell, but that does require a little knowledge, especially the 48 and 52 SPs. John Wash, sounds like you're touching a nerve that needs to be touched. Good job. Yeah, I think that there needs to be
Name,
more
John.
people. We need whatever, John?
I said nice name, John.
Yeah,
John.
exactly. Yeah, I think that more people need to be held accountable for what they've done. You love gold? Okay, another gold bug in the house. Went up. Okay. Is that the great imposter coming on? Yeah, I think he was on earlier, but he decided to leave. Maybe that should be his new name, the great imposter. There's something more valuable than gold in Egypt, and that's the antiquities market. They're finding all sorts of new stuff from an unknown civilization selling. I don't know too much about that. Talking about Aaron Rodgers, the back-to-back league MVP, get it? That'd be crazy if Rodgers wins another Super Bowl.
Yeah.
All right, you would think that the 23K gold cars from Fleer Upper Deck would be more valuable. They are made from gold, for God's sakes. Hobby hasn't caught up yet. You love gold and ganja. That's great.
All right.
All right.
Well, actually, the weird thing is those cards could be valued at the gold they have instead of like the person, the player, the year, and whatnot. So I can sort of see how that happens. I'm not saying I'm right or anything. I'm just thinking.
No. We'll get to the last few comments. John Wolf, people holding rare low pulse vintage aren't suddenly going to be dumping those cars at discount prices. You're going to be waiting forever for this mythical drop.
Well, one thing I gotta say, there's a staying and investing during bear markets is they throw the baby out with the bathwater. In bear markets, and the other one is selling begets selling. So some people might sell it because it's more than a sports card bubble, in my opinion. I think there's a housing bubble. I think there's one more leg up in the stock market, but there'll be a stock market selling. And when people have margin calls or have to get out of the debt, if those low, rare, high vintage still have a lot of value, they might just start selling those just to pay off other bad trades. So
you make a very good point, and I think I'll end it on this. So in 2008, 2009, a lot of people got screwed over by Bernie Madoff, right? And what happened was they needed cash because a lot of their money was tied with Madoff. So they started selling their high-end collectibles to try to raise cash. So whoever is forced to liquidate during that time frame, I think, someone like me, if I have cash at that time, I think I'm definitely going to be looking at some of those collectibles. But yeah, anyways, guys, thanks for coming on. And John, thanks for coming on.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
So,
for sure, man. And we'll talk to you guys later. And also, great negotiator. Come on anytime. You're welcome. All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.
bye bye.